A Bhopal trial court judge recently granted bail to a murder suspect based on a specific forensic interpretation. The decision relied on the technical constraints of the evidence, rather than a lack of motive or witnesses. The victim was Savita Sharma, a rising attorney in the Bhopal bar. The primary suspect is her husband, Vijay. When a 9mm pistol fires, it discharges a projectile alongside a high-velocity plume of vaporized elements. This cloud of lead, barium, and antimony expands rapidly from the muzzle and ejection port, settling on everything in the immediate vicinity. Because GSR particles are highly unstable, they are prone to secondary transfer. In a struggle for the weapon, this cloud coats both individuals in the blast radius equally. Based on these chemical traces alone, forensic science cannot determine who actually pulled the trigger. The defense used this phenomenon to establish reasonable doubt. They claimed the death was an accidental discharge during a domestic fight, using the identical residue concentrations to support their narrative. The Bhopal case demonstrates how a perpetrator with legal literacy can engineer a crime scene. By anticipating the justice system's reliance on isolated data points, they can manufacture a legally resilient alibi. To challenge this narrative, the investigating attorney, Samar, utilized his childhood observations to establish Vijay's psychological baseline. Vijay exhibited the clinical markers of Othello Syndrome, or morbid jealousy. This condition is an escalating pathology of control, where the perpetrator views their partner as a possession to be monitored and isolated. The pathology typically begins with social isolation. This clinical timeline maps how Vijay systematically moved Savita from her university life in Indore to the restrictive environment of Old Bhopal to sever her support systems. The groundwork was laid during the initial courtship in Indore. Vijay used the grandiosity of the local landscape and intense displays of affection to secure Savita's trust and commitment. After securing her commitment, he relocated her, cutting off her familial ties and professional mentorships. Her new environment in Bhopal was a physical manifestation of her psychological confinement. The wide boulevards of Indore were replaced by dense, crowded alleys, where every movement could be observed. This isolation facilitated the transition into Phase 2, intimate partner surveillance. Vijay monitored her call data records, utilized third-party shadowing, and strictly regulated her schedule. This strategic relocation ensured that Vijay became Savita's sole source of information and reality. While Vijay sought total control, he encouraged Savita to become a prominent defense attorney. Her career provided a legal shield for V Enterprises, a shell company Vijay used for money laundering and financial fraud. He exploited her legal expertise to legitimize his fraudulent activities. From the shadows, he forced his wife to draft the very contracts that hid his crimes. This created a condition of trauma bonding. Savita's professional survival and her husband's freedom became inextricably linked. She successfully defended him in early assault cases by identifying forensic loopholes, such as the instability of GSR residue, the same technicalities Vijay would eventually use to cover her murder. The dynamic shifted when Savita secretly compiled the final plea, a dossier documenting the V Enterprises fraud, to use as leverage for her freedom. When her knowledge transformed from his protection into his greatest liability, he began planning an execution designed to look like an accident. Inside the Kohifiza apartment, police processed a scene that appeared to confirm a violent domestic struggle. The physical evidence of this altercation was primarily centered on this Persian rug, right where the violent struggle supposedly occurred. While the official report cited a chaotic fight, Savita's digital diary warned that her crime scene would be staged to mimic a struggle. High-velocity blood spatter provides a more accurate record. Tracing trajectory arcs backward identifies the precise origin. These lines contradict the defense's claim. A ground-level struggle is mathematically impossible given the angle. The shooter was standing over a victim already on the floor. If there was no struggle, the presence of identical GSR on Savita's hands requires a different explanation. In her Exhibit Z video, Savita hypothesized a method to forge this evidence. By firing the weapon to heat the barrel, then pressing the victim's hands against the hot metal, a perpetrator sears residue into the skin. This creates a chemical signature of a struggle that never actually took place. The investigator discovered a third bullet mark in the plaster, which had been hastily painted over before the police arrived. The presence of this third mark implies the use of two weapons. A silenced .22 caliber was likely used for the execution, while the 9mm was discharged and planted to support the struggle narrative. The crime scene functioned as a forged document written in blood and gunshot residue to exploit the legal right of private defense. While a legally literate killer can control a physical crime scene, they often miscalculate the redundancy of digital footprints. The primary police investigation diary showed a convenient gap in Savita's call data records leading up to the murder. Investigators bypassed this gap by accessing data synced to Savita's cloud backup. The logs revealed a deleted 12-minute call to a burner number. This call was placed at 11:47 p.m., 10 minutes after neighbors reported the gunshot. This timestamp proves that while Savita lay dead, a second individual was inside the flat communicating with the outside world. Investigators then re-examined CCTV footage from the alleyway outside the building using AI enhancement. The enhanced footage captured a shadowy figure departing the scene several minutes before Vijay's car was seen pulling away. There is a significant height discrepancy between this figure, who stands at 6 feet 2 inches, and Vijay, who is 5 foot 8. The coordinated movement of this second individual suggests the scene was professionally altered. By removing the primary weapon and planting the 9mm, this accomplice ensured the investigation focused on a narrative that could be easily defeated in court. The Bhopal case exposes a vulnerability in the justice system. Treating technical evidence as absolute truth allows the system to be manipulated. Truth emerges only when we connect separate disciplines. The pathology of Othello Syndrome, the physics of blood spatter, and the recovery of digital records must be viewed as a single data model. Synthesizing clinical psychology with crime scene physics dismantles the reasonable doubt that secured the perpetrator's bail. While the legal system initially failed Savita Sharma, her own meticulous undercover record-keeping provided the blueprint to catch her killer. Science only serves justice when the entire ecosystem of evidence, both the mind of the killer and the physics of the crime scene, is evaluated as a single unbreakable whole.